how to conduct an online funeral. I'm Nathan Morris, and you are you. And be sure to click the bell and subscribe so you can stay up to date, because this is all exclusive right here on YouTube. Online is now more common than ever. COVID allowed and afforded that, whether it's a positive or not. COVID has changed the way in which we buy, changed the way in which we show up. And in the instance of a funeral, that is also the case, because during COVID, there were so many restrictions happening any given moment. There was 1 minute you could have only 10 people. 1 minute you could have 25. Oh, let's go back to 10. And there was constant pivoting, and we would have to shut down the funeral home, all these mask mandates, and people were coming in these side doors, and it was like herding cattle. We believe in ceremony in the funeral profession. We believe in creating experiences and gathering communities together so that you can celebrate, mourn, reflect, honor people. And COVID was a time in which it was difficult, because families, when they lose someone they love so very much, they want to see a community rallying, because that is a visual sign that the person that is being celebrated was and is honored and respected. We turned to online. More than ever, funeral homes were virtually streaming funerals. There were all these companies that started offering. There was always the technology, but there were companies, even specifically in the funeral space, that were saying, hey, we've got this live kit, if you will. Gather is a great example of, and they have a great kit. There are these incredible companies that jumped to help and to serve, because people in the funeral profession, they're not tech wizards. I mean, there are some, but they wanted to take care of the families, and they were turning to Facebook Live and streaming on a Facebook platform, for instance. And so there was this need to create an experience essentially internally on the funeral home's website. So how do you conduct a funeral online? Well, you conduct the funeral physically, but online speaking, it's a permission-based. The families would request it. And now, after COVID, people are requesting it still. It's actually becoming something that's just expected. Many funeral homes will live stream every funeral, and the family are giving a unique code. That code can then be distributed, so it helps from the standpoint of privacy, right? You're not just having access to some loved one's funeral celebration. So how does that happen? Arrangements are made. Funeral homes are usually equipped with, whether it be a camera that is mounted or is mobile. There's a lot of companies that exist now that offer an app service, which is really cool, where you can turn your iPad into a switcher, and everybody's iPhones can become a camera. So you're able to switch a multi-camera and have this awesome lives in the cloud live stream that's able to be embedded onto the website. There are tons of different options. But what we would do is get the family's permission. The family will then conduct and participate in the funeral itself. And on the behind the scenes, the funeral home are set up, or should be set up, to have the sound running through their setup, their gear, and then that living on the website. This is most important, is you want to control the experience on the funeral home establishment's website. You don't want to farm it out. You know, when something is free, you're the product. So if you send someone to Facebook, Facebook is providing the experience. But if your funeral home establishment's website can house, can host, and stream the funeral itself, then you have an upper hand altogether. Families given permission. There are a ton of different resources. There's Tukios, there's Gather. There are a few other options that can make sure that you have a professional looking funeral celebration set up, and your families are able to relive that moment. Whether they want to or not, it's there for them to do so. I've heard where families will rewatch the funeral a year or an anniversary or a birthday, because some things that were said, the things that were captured during a eulogy that were meaningful, impactful, maybe the family didn't even understand it because of the state in which their minds were in. It's a wonderful gift that you're able to give a visual to the family And families are so spread out. I have family everywhere. I had family in Japan for the longest of time. If they're not able to physically gather, especially when something like a pandemic prevents it, but if they can virtually gather, that is wonderful. And if you, as a funeral professional, are the one facilitating that, then you've just leveled up. You've just offered this family a means to connect, and you're going to be top of mind, first choice in the years to come. That's my take. You need to be virtually streaming. You need to be streaming your services. It needs to live in your space. You don't need to farm it out, and you don't need to have it somewhere else. It needs to be internal. You need to put up the funds to make that happen. It doesn't take a lot. There are tons of inexpensive video and audio options. The streaming, there's tons of things available. There's Funeral View. I could go on. And be sure to click the bell. Be sure to subscribe here because we're going to keep this conversation going. But it starts by creating the experience, permitting, getting the family's permission, hosting it, housing it. That is how the experience is offered. Give families the experience physically, yes. Virtually is just as important. We'll see you around the river bend. All right? You come back now, you hear?